From the moment you were born, the world told you to be strong. Be brave, be unbreakable. Don't cry, don't falter. Don't ever let them see you fall. And so you built walls instead of peace. You carried burdens that were never meant to be carried alone, smiling when you wanted to scream, standing tall when your soul was begging to rest. You thought strength was about never bending, but over time you started to realize being unshaken doesn't mean you're unhurt. Behind every "I'm fine" is a storm you've been holding back for far too long. You've become so good at surviving that you've forgotten how to simply exist, how to breathe without bracing for another blow. And when everything gets too heavy, you call it exhaustion. Not what it truly is, the soul begging for silence. The Stoics understood this struggle. They saw that trying to be strong all the time is like trying to stop the ocean with your hands. It's noble but impossible. Life will move the way it must, with or without your resistance. And true strength, they said, isn't about control, it's about calm. Because when you're calm, you can see clearly. You can think clearly, and in that stillness you realize something beautiful. You were never meant to fight everything. You were meant to flow with it. There comes a moment when strength finally shatters, not in front of everyone, but in the quiet, behind closed doors, between heavy breaths, under the weight of a day that just won't end. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's a quiet surrender, the kind where your body stops pretending, your thoughts stop fighting, and all that's left is silence. You don't scream anymore, you just sit there, tired, empty, done. It's strange how peaceful breaking can feel, because for the first time you're not holding it together. You're not forcing yourself to smile or to keep going. You're just there, raw, honest human, and maybe that's the first real moment of calm you've felt in years. The Stoics would say this isn't weakness, it's awakening. They believe that collapse isn't the end of strength, but the beginning of understanding, that the mind only finds clarity once it stops resisting what's real. And in that stillness, when there's nothing left to fight, the truth appears. You were never broken. You were just tired of pretending you weren't. This is where calm begins, not in control but in surrender. The storm doesn't end, but something inside you shifts. You stop trying to fix the moment and start living in it. And for the first time you realize, maybe you don't need to be strong. Maybe you just need to be still. Calm doesn't come like thunder. It arrives quietly. It slips in between thoughts, between breaths, in the moments when you finally stop trying to control everything. At first it feels strange, almost empty, because you're used to chaos. You've spent your life in survival mode, constantly preparing for the next fight. But when you stop running, when you finally sit with yourself, you realize that silence isn't scary and it's sacred. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that stillness is not the absence of motion, but the mastery of it. To remain centered while the world spins, to think clearly when emotions pull you apart, that's true power. Calm doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means nothing controls how you feel. And it's not coldness, it's clarity. In calm, you start to see how much of your suffering came from resistance, how much energy was wasted trying to fix things that didn't need fixing. You begin to understand. Life doesn't need your tension, it needs your attention. The more you let go, the lighter you feel. And slowly, peace stops being a stranger. It becomes your natural state. It's in this quiet that strength transforms. You stop chasing it. You stop proving it. And somehow, without realizing it, you become stronger than ever. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped fighting at all. The Stoics were right. Calm isn't a reward you earn after chaos. It's what happens when you remember that the chaos was never yours to hold. There's a moment, quiet and small, when you realize you don't have to fight anymore. Not because you've lost, but because you finally understand. Nothing worth keeping is ever taken by force. You begin to see that the harder you cling, the faster things slip away. People change, plans fail, time moves, and all the strength in the world can't stop it. But calm lets it all pass through without breaking you. The Stoics called this harmony with nature, the art of flowing with what is. Instead of resisting it, it's not passivity, it's power in alignment. When you stop demanding that life obey your will, you start to see its rhythm. You learn to walk with it, not ahead, not behind, but together. And in that rhythm, peace stops being an effort. It becomes who you are, Acceptance is not giving up. It's growing up. It's choosing understanding over resistance, awareness over control. When you surrender, you're not bowing to fate. You're stepping into it, with eyes open and heart steady. You realize that every ending was never punishment, but redirection. Every loss, a lesson in disguise. This is what the Stoics meant by strength. Not the power to force life into shape, but the wisdom to trust its design. To smile when things fall apart. Because you know nothing truly good can ever be taken from a peaceful soul. Calm becomes your shield and acceptance your sword. And in that surrender, you find something you'd been chasing all along. Not victory, not control, but freedom. One morning, you wake up and realize something has changed. Not outside, but within. The noise of the world still exists. The same problems, the same chaos, the same demands. But it doesn't reach you the way it used to. You move through the day slower, softer. Not because you've given up, but because you finally understand. Not everything needs your reaction. Some things just need your peace. This calm isn't fragile anymore. It's not something you try to hold. It's something that holds you. You stop measuring strength by how much you can carry and start measuring it by how easily you can let go. You no longer chase control or perfection. You walk in alignment with what is. The world moves. You move with it. And somehow that feels like power. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't force, doesn't fear. The Stoics called this mastery of the self. The mind becoming unshakable. Not because life grew kinder, but because you grew wiser. You see clearly now, strength was never the point, calm was. Because calm sees the truth. Calm chooses clarity. Calm remains whole when everything else falls apart. And in that stillness, you meet the part of yourself that was always waiting, untouched by time, chaos or pain. Now calm is no longer something you seek. It's who you are. You've stopped trying to be strong. You've stopped trying to prove. You've stopped fighting with life and started living with it. And that's when you finally understand the truth. The Stoics tried to tell the world, you were never meant to conquer everything. You were meant to be calm enough to let everything pass and still remain at peace. Because in the end, the greatest strength is this. You don't have to be strong, and you just have to be calm.